You are about to engage in the guidebook unit, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The purpose of this video is to help you become familiar with the historical setting of the novel, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so you will better understand the actions and feelings of the characters. Be sure you have your handout and something to write with for this video. Here are the first 3 sentences of the novel, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They contain a mystery we need to solve. Follow along while I read. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. They were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids? What is an air raid? When did this happen? Why were the children sent away exactly? We will solve these mysteries during the video. Where is London anyway? London is the capital of England, which is a country in Europe. What was happening in London in 1940? The text says that there were air raids. An air raid is when bombs are dropped from an airplane, like this one. This photograph shows an actual German airplane dropping bombs on London, where the children were living, during World War II. Let's learn a bit about this war so we can fully understand what is happening in this story. What do we mean when we say World War II? We call it a world war because many countries around the world were involved. World War II lasted for 6 years, from 1939 to 1945. Most of the fighting took place in Europe, but there were also battles in East Asia, North Africa, and a bombing of Pearl Harbor in the United States. The main countries involved were Germany, Japan, and Italy, on one side, called the Axis powers. The other side, known as the Allied powers, was made up of England, France, Russia, the United States, China, and many small countries in Europe. Here is a timeline of a few of the major events of the European conflict during World War II. The war began when Germany invaded Poland in 1939. In 1940, Germany invaded Norway, Denmark, Belgium, and the Netherlands. It also began dropping bombs on England. In 1942, Italy switched sides in the war and began to help the Allies fight against Germany. In 1944, many Allied soldiers landed in France and began fighting back. After 6 years of war, Germany finally surrendered to the Allies in 1945. The story we read in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe takes place in 1940, as Germany is bombing the city in the center of England. You have just learned something new about the bombs and the children that they were escaping. Which country was bombing London in 1940? Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at the first stop sign, then hit play when you are ready to continue. Germany was bombing London in 1940. Germany carried out heavy air raids over England in 1940 and 1941 during the Second World War. During those years, more than 1 million London houses were destroyed or damaged. More than 40,000 British civilians were killed, almost half of them in the capital. Here are 2 photographs that show left behind damage from the bombs that fell on London. It looks like these children may have lost their homes, and perhaps their parents did not survive. They were lucky to be alive. During the bombing raids, people would hide under the ground in bomb shelters and wait for several hours until the bombing stopped to come out. These pictures were taken in one of London's subway stations, where people would go for shelter if they couldn't find a proper bomb shelter. Subways run underground, so it was a good place to go and wait for the bombing to stop. Children were evacuated from the cities across England. Much of the bombing was in London, but some other British cities were hit as well. If parents had relatives who lived in the countryside, they sent their children to go live with them until the danger had passed. The British government organized to send millions of children out of the cities by train. They were then placed with volunteer families or in special group homes in the country. Some children enjoyed the life in the country. Others endured a miserable time away from home. Many children from inner city areas had never seen farm animals before or even eaten vegetables. After being away from home for several months, when it was time to return home to their families, some children were confused and did not recognize their parents. Write a sentence that describes what is happening to these children. Pause the video to record your answers on your handout at the next stop sign, then hit play when you are ready to continue. Your sentence should say something like, "These children are being sent from the city to the country by their parents to keep them safe from the bombs." Let's take a closer look at the last sentence from our passage. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. Now we have a better understanding of why the characters in the novel of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe found themselves living in the country home of an old professor they had never met before. Now you understand what was happening in history during World War II, specifically in London. Understanding the setting helps you better understand the characters you will read about in the guidebooks unit, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. When you finish this video, be sure to turn in your completed handout to your teacher.